Let me tell you something right now. While the entire city of Chicago has been absolutely obsessing over Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and whether this explosive new offense can carry the monsters of the Midway all the way to a championship, something happened on the practice field at Hallis Hall this week that changes everything. And I mean everything. A rookie cornerback just made a seasoned veteran look like he was wearing cement shoes. A Super Bowl champion picked off your franchise quarterback in open practice like it was absolutely nothing. And a two-time Pro Bowl corner came out of nowhere on day one of mandatory minicamp and torched Caleb Williams twice in a single session. Meanwhile, the defense that every talking head across the country keeps dismissing, the one they say isn't good enough, isn't fast enough, and isn't experienced enough, might just be the most dangerous, underrated unit in the entire NFC. But here is the catch. Here's the thing nobody in Chicago wants to say out loud right now. There is a ticking clock on this entire defensive picture, and it has absolutely nothing to do with scheme, personnel fit, or coaching philosophy. It is injuries, and the minicamp injury report that just came out this week should make every single Bears fan feel some incredibly complicated feelings heading into training camp. So buckle up because we are going deep on all of it today. Let us start with the man who walked into Hallis Hall wearing a Super Bowl ring and carrying 40 million reasons to want another one. Kobe Bryant. Yes, he was named after Kobe Bryant of the Los Angeles Lakers, and look, that name alone tells you everything you need to know about the kind of high-stakes, hyper-competitive household this man grew up in. Bryant arrived in Chicago this offseason after spending last year with a Seattle defense that finished first in points allowed per game across the entire NFL season. Let that sink in for a second. This is not some journeyman safety the Bears scooped up just to fill a depth chart hole. This is a battle-tested, championship pedigree defensive back who opposing coordinators in the most pass-happy era in NFL history had to actively scheme around. And in practice this week at Hallis Hall, Bryant did the exact thing that gets a veteran immediate, undeniable respect in a new locker room. He picked off Caleb Williams in front of everybody. No fanfare, no wild celebration. Just a guy who has been on the biggest stage making a play he was always going to make because that is exactly who he is. What makes Bryant even more fascinating than the interception itself is what he said this week about his own competitive mentality. He told reporters that it does not matter whether he is just walking down the street. He wants to walk faster than the person next to him. That is not a soundbite. That is not media training. That is a personality trait. That is the raw DNA of someone who arrived in Chicago not to be a placeholder, not to be a mentor-only addition, but to actually compete and win football games. The 27-year-old is back, and Bryant described this defensive back group as genuinely special, saying the guys are incredibly willing to work, and that it has been fun from the moment he arrived at Hallis Hall. When a Super Bowl winner says the culture feels right this early in the off-season process, you have to take note. His 4 interceptions last year and 3 the year before that give him 7 over 2 seasons. That is a ball hawk with real credentials, and this Bears secondary needed exactly that kind of credibility injection. Now, before we keep celebrating, let's be completely honest about what we do not know yet. Players who thrive in elite systems do not always replicate that identical production when they move somewhere brand new, especially with younger, less experienced teammates around them. The margin for error tightens significantly when you're no longer surrounded by a defensive machine built over years of careful roster construction. What Bryant brings is the ceiling-raising possibility of anchoring this secondary the way Hallis Hall fans haven't seen in years. What remains to be proven is whether that elite version of Bryant shows up in September when the games actually count. Before we move on to the rookies, I want to take a quick moment to talk to all of you watching right now. We put an incredible amount of hard work, sleepless nights, and absolute dedication into producing deep dive documentaries like this for the channel. Every single subscription equals a massive wave of motivation for us to keep pushing and delivering the best Bears content on the internet. We're trying to grow this community into something truly special. So if you're feeling this breakdown, please take a second to hit that subscribe button, like the video, share it with your fellow Bears fans, and leave a comment down below. It means the world to us. Now let's talk about Dylan Tevlin. First-round pick, number 25 overall in the draft. And if Bryant's words are any indication, this kid might be ahead of schedule in ways nobody is fully accounting for yet. Bryant told reporters that Tevlin plays at a speed that forces veterans to literally tell him to slow down during individual drills. Stop and think about what that actually means. A 21-year-old rookie is practicing so hard and so incredibly fast that a Super Bowl champion has to tell him to pump the brakes in June at voluntary minicamp. Championship is not filler. It means a young player is processing information at the exact speed the pros demand. When a champion says a rookie is absorbing the game correctly, that is the highest possible early endorsement you can get. Tevlin came out of Purdue with a skill set that teams spend years trying to find in the modern NFL. Deep coverage speed, rotational read instincts, and a violent willingness to come downhill and hit in the run game. First-round safeties with that exact combination do not grow on trees. Real validation only comes when the lights go on in September. But the early signs from someone who has already been on the biggest stage in football are genuinely exciting. But here is where this story gets completely wild. And here's what I need you to understand before the conversation keeps moving. Malik Muhammad, the fourth-round corner out of Texas. The man Ryan Poles traded up to select at pick number 124 by moving packages with the Carolina Panthers. General managers do not trade up for depth. GMs do not move future assets just to grab roster filler. You trade up when you believe a player can be a legitimate conference-level starter, and Poles believed it badly enough to execute aggressive move to make sure nobody else could get there first. Muhammad earned second-team All-SEC honors during his college career, and now he wears number 24 for the Chicago Bears. And in minicamp this week at Halas Hall, Muhammad did something that speaks louder than any combined number or college highlight reel ever could. He was all over Tariq Stevenson in practice. He was absolutely destroying him in reps in June as a rookie, going up against a veteran who went 25 down the board just one draft cycle ago. What makes this even more significant is what is happening from a coaching side. Al Harris, the Bears' legendary defensive backs coach, is on Muhammad every single rep, every tiny technical detail, every footwork correction, every break angle, every coverage assignment. Harris is right there watching, teaching, and correcting. And if you know anything about Al Harris, you understand exactly what this means. Coaches at this level only invest that kind of intense, personal energy in players they genuinely believe can help them win real games right now. A fourth-round depth piece does not get Al Harris camped on his shoulder correcting his footwork every single day. Muhammad is getting that treatment because the coaching staff is already thinking about him as a real, immediate answer at CB2. Chicago is training Muhammad at both outside cornerback and nickel, and while he did not play much nickel in college, he openly said he can play whatever position the Bears ask of him. What does this mean for Tariq Stevenson? This is the uncomfortable question this city has not fully confronted yet. Stevenson was a high draft pick not long ago. He is playing in a contract year. After major injury issues last season, the Bears have to keep 6 cornerbacks this year, with Jalen Johnson and Stevenson expected to be the outside starters. But when a fourth-round rookie you traded up for starts winning reps against a corner who is supposed to be fighting for his next contract, that sends a very specific message about where the coaching staff's confidence actually sits. I am not ready to declare Muhammad the Week 1 starter just yet. Training camp has to happen. Reps have to accumulate. But the signals coming out of Halas Hall are pointing toward a fierce competition that could break the rookies' way considerably faster than anyone expected. And then there's Jalen Johnson, our two-time Pro Bowler, the player who, when healthy, makes this entire secondary function at an elite level. The man who, on day one of mandatory minicamp, picked off Caleb Williams twice in a single practice session. Johnson was limited by a frustrating groin injury last season, but he came out firing with 2 interceptions on the very first day of mandatory minicamp. This is the exact version of Jalen Johnson this team absolutely needs to see walk into training camp in late July. If this is what a healthy, motivated, engaged Jalen Johnson looks like in June, opposing coordinators are going to spend the entire season looking for windows away from his side of the field that simply do not exist. Put him next to Kobe Bryant, who also picked off Caleb Williams in practice this week, and you have got a cornerback pairing that can genuinely change the identity of this defense. Now, we have to talk about the complication because there's always a complication. Kyler Gordon, the starting slot corner, has been out since OTAs with a nagging soft tissue injury. He missed all 3 days of mandatory minicamp, and Ben Johnson's response when asked about his status was deliberately careful. Johnson said they are still working through it, and that availability is a massive part of building trust with the coaching staff. Read between the lines of that statement. That is a head coach telling the public in the most professional language possible that a player who keeps missing time is burning through his goodwill. Slot cornerback is not an easy position to substitute. The slot in the modern NFL sees the most targeted pass routes in any defense, and a corner who cannot stay on the field cannot build the chemistry and processing speed the position demands. Jalen Jones got slot reps during minicamp while Gordon was unavailable. Muhammad also has real positioning to step into that role if Gordon does not get healthy before training camp. This is competitive pressure the right way, but it is also a genuine health risk for a team that needs its defensive backfield fully operational to compete deep into January. Let us get into the defensive line, because this is where things go from exciting and complicated to quietly alarming. Gervon Dexter spoke at minicamp about the outside noise surrounding the Bears' defense. He said all the right things. He talked about the belief in that locker room, about taking the criticism together as a group, and about not viewing it as a negative. All of it sounded composed, professional, and mature. And here's why that composure is precisely what worries me. Because what he said did not touch the actual question that matters. How many more years does Ryan Poles wait for a high pick from 2 seasons ago to become what was expected of him? Dexter totaled 44 tackles and posted career highs in tackles for loss and sacks last year. But his impact could have been so much greater if not for missed tackles and missed turnover opportunities. Playing beside him was Jarrett, who was named a team captain but managed just 1.5 sacks in 14 games due to his own injury battles. The physical profile is real. 6 feet 6 inches, over 300 pounds, and lateral mobility that not every big man possesses. But a physical profile and consistent interior disruption against NFC power offenses like the Rams, the Eagles, and the Lions are 2 entirely different things. Dexter himself said at minicamp that he is focusing heavily on fundamentals this offseason, working on his stance and his get-off, treating it as another year to grow. That is the right answer, but the feel that training camp is going to tell us considerably more than anything said in front of cameras at Halas Hall in June. Montez Sweat remains the one genuinely elite piece of this defensive line. His pass rush numbers are real. His pressure rate is real. And opposing offensive coordinators spend massive game planning resources specifically to account for what he does off the edge. But here's the fundamental problem that never went away even through last season. When teams pour resources toward stopping Sweat, the interior becomes manageable for opposing offensive lines. Without a second interior threat who can create true pocket chaos at the same time Sweat is attacking the edge, the math heavily favors the offense. That is the gap Gervon Dexter was supposed to eventually fill. That is the gap Shamar Turner was supposed to help close when the Bears invested a second-round pick in him last spring. And as of right now, heading into this critical season, both of those questions remain genuinely open. Which brings us to the hardest part of the minicamp report. Shemar Turner has not practiced at all this entire spring. Not a single snap. Turner suffered a torn ACL during Chicago's loss to Baltimore in Week 8 and appeared in just 5 regular season games as a rookie. His 9-month recovery timeline from that devastating injury does not hit until training camp begins. When Ben Johnson was asked about a specific timetable for Turner, he gave a brutal 2-word answer: "We will see." That is honest. That is also not the kind of answer that makes you feel comfortable about your edge rusher depth for Week 1 of September. Ryan Poles spoke passionately about Turner during the offseason, saying he had a ton of faith that Turner was going to make the kind of impact his fellow rookies made last year, and that the organization simply did not get to see that because of the injury. Turner's athleticism, his pass rush versatility, and his unique ability to line up at both defensive tackle and defensive end mean that his upside has not evaporated because of a torn ligament. Modern ACL recoveries are better than they have ever been, but timing matters enormously. If Turner arrives in late July still limited, if preseason contact is a major question mark, that edge rusher room goes into September without the depth this team genuinely needs to survive. Now let us celebrate what actually was good news out of this minicamp, because it was real good news and it deserves its moment. TJ Edwards is back practicing at full capacity. They said he would be ready for training camp, and he showed up ahead of schedule. Edwards is one of those special linebackers who does things most players at that position in this league simply cannot do. He reads the backfield before the snap is even made, positions himself perfectly on the ball's path, and has a genuine, natural nose for forcing turnovers. His absence last season left a massive tactical gap in Matt Eberflus' defense that never fully got addressed. Having him back healthy in June is legitimately one of the best things to come out of this entire 3-day minicamp. And Deo Odiengbo, who came back from a torn Achilles and participated in team periods during minicamp, completely defying what anyone expected during OTAs, is ahead of his own schedule as well. Ben Johnson said at the beginning of the offseason program they were not even sure they would see Odiengbo on the field this spring at all. The fact that he is in team settings in June adds a genuine wild card to the pass rush room depth that most national projections are not accounting for right now. So here's the full picture of where the Chicago Bears defense stands after mandatory minicamp. The secondary has all the ingredients for something truly special. Jalen Johnson picking off your own franchise quarterback twice on day 1 of camp is a massive statement. Kobe Bryant picking off Caleb Williams with a Super Bowl ring on his finger is a direct warning to every offense in the NFC. Malik Muhammad getting the kind of intense, rep-by-rep coaching from Al Harris that is only given to players the staff believes will play real, meaningful football is one of the more exciting developmental storylines in this entire conference. And Dylan Tevlin, the first-round rookie playing so fast as veterans are asking him to slow down in June, might end up being the best player in this entire draft class by the time the regular season is in the books. But the defensive line is not yet what this team needs it to be for a deep playoff run. Gervon Dexter has said the right things, and now he has to show it on an actual field in training camp. Grady Jarrett at $40 million has yet to produce the interior disruption that massive investment was supposed to unlock. Shemar Turner is in a long recovery, and Ben Johnson's 2-word answer about his timeline tells you everything you need to know about how careful the coaching staff is being with expectations. And Kyler Gordon, one of the most important players in the entire defensive scheme because of what the slot demands in this era, is injured and has been since OTAs. This is the NFL in June. Every roster on every team has a version of this list. Hopeful signs mixed with genuine question marks. Stars looking healthy mixed with depth pieces on the injury report. But for a Chicago Bears team that made the divisional round last season and came back this offseason with a clear mandate to go even further with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson running the most exciting offensive system in the NFC, the defense cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be the soft underbelly that postseason opponents ruthlessly exploit in January. Ryan Poles knows this. Ben Johnson knows this. The entire job description for the defensive staff is built around making this defense worthy of the offense it plays alongside. Training camp kicks off in less than 6 weeks. That is where this story stops being about mini-camp soundbites and practice field highlights and starts being about real snap counts, real contact, and real answers to every single question we just broke down. The secondary might be legitimately elite when it is healthy, The defensive line is going to make or break whether this team can play meaningful football deep into January. And Shamar Turner is the one player in this entire building whose recovery timeline could change the entire calculus of this defense before September even arrives. Bear down, Chicago. The most interesting 6 weeks of this offseason start right now. And I will be right here breaking down every single development as it happens. Because this Bears story is far too good to summarize in a few lines anywhere. As we wrap up today's documentary, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who stuck around until the end. We put so much hard work, passion, and dedication into creating these breakdowns for you, and honestly, every single subscription gives us the motivation to keep going. If you learned something today, or if this gave you a sharper lens on what is really going on at Halas Hall, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, share this video, and drop a comment down below. Do you think this Bears defense is truly ready for a deep playoff run, or does Ryan Poles need to make another major move before week 1? I read every single comment personally to help grow our incredible community. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching. Chicago Bears Voice.